Good morning. Hope you're doing well today and have a good start to your week. It's good to be with you as we continue together in our time in Daniel. We were talking yesterday in staff about how now that school has started at Mississippi State, school started in our schools, we're now in that regular rhythm, and I enjoy myself. I like a rhythm. I appreciate many of you reaching out to me and telling me that you enjoy these reflections each morning at 7 o'clock. Or if you can do, if you're on my email, I email it out at 6 in the morning, but I do post the video at 7, and then of course the podcast goes up at 5. So if you're on an early riser, check your podcast app at 5 in the morning. It should be there. But the regular rhythms, and so it's good to be in this rhythm with Daniel. So we're going to read Daniel chapter 2. My translation breaks Daniel 2 into several sections, but I want to combine two sections because I think it makes more sense if you can see these two sections together. So we're gonna read chapter 2, verses 1 through 23. In the second year of King Nebuchadnezzar's reign, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed such dreams that his spirit was troubled and his sleep left him. So the king commanded the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, all the Chaldeans be summoned to tell the king his dreams. When they came and stood before the king, he said to them, I have had such a dream that my spirit is troubled by the desire to understand it. The Chaldean said to the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will reveal the interpretation. The king answered the Chaldeans, This is a public decree. If you do not tell me both the dream and its interpretation, you shall be torn limb from limb, and your houses shall be laid in ruins. But if you do tell me the dream and its interpretation, he shall receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore, tell me the dream and its interpretation. They answered a second time, Let the king first tell his servants the dream, then we can give the interpretation. The king answered, I know with certainty that you are trying to gain time because you see I have firmly decreed. If you do not tell me the dream, there's one verdict for you. You have already agreed to speak lyingly and misleadingly the words to me until things take a turn. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can give me its interpretation. The Chaldeans answered the king, There's no one on earth who can reveal what the king dreams and what the king demands. In fact, no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or Chaldean. The thing that the king is asking is too difficult, and no one can reveal to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with mortals. Because of this, the king flew into a violent rage and commanded that all the wise men in Babylon be destroyed. The decree was issued, and the wise men were about to be executed. They looked for Daniel and his companions to execute them. And Daniel responded with prudence and discretion to Arioch, the king's chief executioner, who had gone out to execute the wise men of Babylon. He asked Arioch, the royal official, Why is the decree of the king so urgent? Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. So Daniel went in and requested that the king give him time, and he would tell the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his home and informed his companions, Hanai, Mishael, and Azariah, and told them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery. So that Daniel and his companions went with the rest of the wise men of Babylon, that when the rest of Babylon might not perish. The mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision that night, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel said, Blessed be the name of the God from age to age, for wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons, deposes kings and sets up kings, gives wisdom to the wise, and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and hidden things, and knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells in him. To you, O God of my ancestors, I will give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and power. Have now revealed to me what we have asked of you. For you revealed to us what the king ordered. So, we'll talk a little bit about dreams today and interpretations and things such as this. First, I do want to comment on, I love what it says about Daniel, verse 14. Then Daniel responded with prudence and discretion. And he asked him, Why is it so urgent? I once heard the great theologian Chris Rock say this. When you're talking, there's three things you need to ask yourself. Does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? Does this need to be said by me now? I think that's three pretty good things to think about when we're talking is, do I need to say this? Saying, I probably shouldn't say this, but well, if you have to buff it by saying I probably shouldn't say this, then maybe not say it. Okay. Does this need to be said by me? Because there's some things that need to be said that I don't need to be the one to say them. Somebody else needs to say them. I might not need to be the you may not hear something from me that you may hear from someone else. That's sometimes what guest preachers are for. Sometimes you can hear a word from another pastor that's not your pastor in a way that you can't really hear it before. So does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And then does it need to be said by me now? Sometimes you need to wait. Jesus says, do not cast your pearls before swine. Sometimes folks are not ready to hear what you need to tell them. And that's okay. They're not ready to hear it. And once again, that's okay. It doesn't make them bad, it doesn't make you bad. It just means now it's not the time. So Daniel waited to the right time to say, hey, now why are y'all killing us? Like, what's going on here? And then that allowed him the doorway to then interpret the dream. So dreams, we see the Lord speak through dreams a lot in Scripture. Think of all the times that people have had dreams. Jacob, the ladder. Peter with the clean and unclean foods. Um, so often in Scripture, God communicates through dreams, and I think there is something to that. I've got well, my therapist. She's big on the fact that our dreams are often our brains processing and trying to think through things that we might not even fully understand. There's something there within, and so God does not only speak through dreams. And by the way, not every dream is something God's speaking through because some people have some unusual dreams that have nothing to do with God. So I don't need you to think that every dream you ever have is something where God's trying to communicate to you through. And that does not mean, so it doesn't mean that every dream is something where God's speaking. But I do think there are times when we have something on our soul, when we're struggling. And maybe in that time, maybe the reason why God speaks through dreams quite often is because in that moment he has our undivided attention, you know? Maybe he would speak to us more in that way more often in our waking hours if we gave over the space in our minds to hear, you know? Maybe that's why our dreams are so impactful and why he can speak to us sometimes is because we're actually paying attention. We have some downtime in our brain to listen. I'm not considering to tell you that I've had a lot of times when God's spoken to me through dreams. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. I'm not. I usually don't even remember my dreams. Holly, she seems to always remember her dreams. They're always something crazy. I don't remember my dreams. Other than the dream that I have every other night was where I'm late for a calculus test and didn't attend a class the entire semester. I have that dream all the time. I guess it's residual PTSD from calculus. But I have that dream once a week where oh my gosh, today's the calculus final. Oh no, I forgot to go to a class the entire semester. We all have that one. Maybe it's not calculus, but it's whatever. But I do remember one dream I had where I know God was speaking to me through it. It was at the time when I really gave my heart to Jesus. I was a senior in high school, and I remember I was just maybe it was that season, when you're a senior, you're thinking about where to go to college at, leaving home, all these type things that often our kids think through. I remember I had a dream. I don't even remember. I don't even really remember what happened in the dream. I just remember everything was terrible in the dream. And as I was kind of coming out of it, I just had this voice in my soul and my heart that just told me, Andy, it's going to be okay. I'm going to take care of you. It's going to be okay. And I woke up not long after that. And I just had this peace come over me, this understanding that God was going to be with me and that it was going to be okay. So I don't want you to think that every dream you ever have is something that God's saying to you. It's not. Not every dream's worth remembering. But I do believe there are times. I do. And I don't think they're often. But I do believe there are times when God really does say something to us through our dreams. but I do think it's also an encouragement for us to find space in our day-to-day lives, apart from our dreams, in our day-to-day living, where we have the peace and the quiet, when we have the lack of noise and distractions, to allow ourselves to listen. And I think that's why sometimes God does speak to us through dreams, because that's when we're really paying attention. So, well, I wanted to just talk a little bit about what's happening here, Daniel's discretion, but then also how that kind of works. Then tomorrow we'll pick up with Daniel's interpretation of the dream. So, hey, have a great rest of your day. See you in the morning. Thanks.